The World Cup is back and Football Weekly is going daily. From the goals and the glory to the politics and the problems, join me, Max Rushton, and our expert panel every day of the tournament. World Cup Daily, listen on Spotify now and watch the full episodes on YouTube.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi!
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
George Borrello, our state senator from Chautauqua, where I spent a summer as a 7-year-old and lost almost all my clothes that I had that year.
You spent time in Chautauqua, too?
I did.
Where haven't you been?
My parents rented a house near the big amphitheater there.
Yeah, beautiful spot.
Unbeknownst to them, there was a big organ in that amphitheater, and someone was practicing it, usually very late at night. Actually, I really enjoyed my time there, Senator. But I did lose a number of my items from the day camp, and my mother is still very upset about this. If you find a blue windbreaker from 1977, please call me.
Is a Star Wars windbreaker, perhaps?
No, I wish it were. But it's a beautiful area up there.
49 years ago?
Yeah, about almost 49 years ago. Yeah, it would have been 49 years ago. But fun fact, also from the Jamestown area, Lucille Ball, correct?
That's correct, yes. Yeah. In fact, we have the National Comedy Center in downtown Jamestown. It is an amazing place. If you have not been to Western New York, go to Jamestown, go to the National Comedy Center. And every year in early August, we have the Lucille Ball Comedy Festival with A-list comedians. We had Jerry Seinfeld, actually this year, Jerry Seinfeld, Sebastian Maniscalco, A-list comedians in the little community of Jamestown, New York. It's an amazing place.
Now, one of my Freedom 250, The Decisions That Made America features was on Lucille Ball because she was an incredibly smart businesswoman.
Yes.
So first, when she was still married to Desi Arnaz, they decided to create a production company to create I Love Lucy, and then that was kind of sold to see. So, in other words, she took control of it, and then when they got divorced, she became the first woman to run a real studio in Hollywood, and that studio was responsible for, a couple little things like Star Trek, Mission Impossible, that no one else would have produced.
But I remember the name of the company, Desilu.
Desilu.
Well, she is dead.
Yeah, she did pass away in 1989.
You're not going to murder anyone today on the show, right? You murdered Linda yesterday.
I did. I'm very proud of the fact that we immediately corrected it. We didn't even go to commercial break. I
scratched my head and I said, is she dead?
No, she's not.
No, he's a murderer. I'm telling you.
Sadly, she is suffering from an incredibly rare disease that is incurable. We certainly are praying for her. But yes, I apologize once again. She's one of my favorite singers, and for some reason, I guess I thought she had passed away. But Linda Ronstadt is still with us, and may she get better.
Listen, today's our last day here, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
And I just want to say good morning to everyone. It's been an incredible week filling in for Sid and Friends. Sid, thank you for trusting us with your audience. Anytime you need to take off, we're ready to take over again.
Well, there you go. Listen, one of the big things that people are talking about here in New York City this morning is this decision by the city to freeze the rent, which, look, obviously rents are very high in the city. I do believe there's time for compassion, but if you think this is compassionate to the tenants, anything longer than this 1 year, you're being very foolish. Their rents will be jacked up much higher.
You know what would be fair? And I'm telling this to every business person out there. And, I understand, the socialists want to play the violin that, we're doing something for you. All right. You want to reduce the rents? You want to reduce price increases? Well, why don't you reduce the real estate taxes to compensate for not being able to raise the rents.
And the water charges are going up. Huge increase there.
John hit the nail on the head.
Yeah,
you know what? Don't increase the expenses and lower the rents.
Of the landlord.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, if you want to lower the rents, we'll lower the rents, lower the real estate taxes.
Yeah,
it makes sense, right?
Of course.
Yeah. This is common sense. George Borrello, you're a state senator, but you're a businessman too. What do you think?
Well, first of all, New York City's unique, right? You've got this huge amount of people in a very small space, essentially, and rents are high. It's a supply and demand thing. But what you're doing is you're basically saying we're going to limit your ability to care for these properties, to do the upkeep that you need, and also as you said, John, there's a lot of other expenses here, and a lot of them are burdens on the property owners. And look, you want to know who the worst landlord in New York City is? NYCHA.
The city.
New York
the
City Housing Authority.
Yeah, exactly. The New York City Housing Authority is the worst. It's a slumlord, the biggest slumlord in the city. So what's being done about that? And you're going to drive more people out of the private property business. And that's what they want. They want to confiscate property. This is the socialist agenda. And you do that by death by 1,000 cuts. We're not going to let you make money. We're not going to let you do the things you need to do. We're going to convert your buildings to all electric at huge expenses. So you want to save, you want to make rent more affordable. Let's not make everybody convert their buildings to all electric, which is going to be a huge cost. Huge
supply and demand. If you want the price of something where demand isn't elastic. I mean, people are going to want to live in a house, right? Yeah. So or an apartment. That's not going to change. You have to increase supply.
That's right.
Period. And you're not going to increase supply by raising the costs and all the regulatory barriers, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, the only people who really have the money and the capital to build more are the higher end builders. So what you do is let them build more, because then the higher end now will become a little less expensive, and it will trickle down. That's the way that works. If you tell everyone, hey, we'll let you build in New York City, but it's got to be $200 a month rent, I mean, no one's going to build.
Listen, I have a different take on this whole thing here. I think that the socialists are playing the cards right. I believe that wealthy people should play their cards now, right?
The PR card, the public relations card.
The public, not only the public relations card, the human side of a billionaire, of a multimillionaire. If you own a few buildings, lower the rents a little bit and write it off. Write it off, because it's legal to do that. I bought a truck, cost me around $90,000. I was going to sell it. Instead, I'm going to donate it to one of WABC's advertisers who does a lot of good things. What's the name?
Cars for Kids.
Cars for Kids.
Something like that.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to call Cars for Kids, and I'm going to donate the truck, and I'm going to write it off. That's it. It's simple. So let's hit them back harder than they hit us.
You make a good point, but not everyone has the income to write off. That's the thing.
No, I'm talking about the big guys.
Okay.
The guys. Listen, you go to Mott Haven in the Bronx.
Yeah, those guys.
They built that up tremendously. You have like 8,000 apartments, and they're all empty. Why? Because the rents are too high. People in that area can't afford it, and the gentrifiers haven't gotten there yet. The socialists have not gotten to Mott Haven yet, right? So those landlords should lower the rents, make them affordable, rather than $4,000, charge $2,000, and write the rest off.
Well, I have an even more capitalist idea, Fernando and Senator Borrello and John. I think, one of the things that's incredibly valuable about a city like New York City, and there's very few other places like this anywhere in this country, is you have massive potential foot traffic by your retail property. And I know Amazon is taking over a lot of things, but foot traffic is even more valuable because of that. If I had that kind of money to invest in new buildings and things like that, one of my great public relations move would be to have lower rents, but for the tenants, for the people living there. But for retailers, I could say, listen, I'm guaranteeing you a large building where there's going to be a lot of foot traffic to your store, and make my money back with the commercial real estate.
You know what? Just write the whole thing off. give them businesses give them bodegas, give them supermarkets that they can come in and shop to. Give them restaurants. What are you going to do? You donate it to causes where people steal 80% of your donation. Yeah. There are organizations, not for profits. You donate $1,000, they use $800 for their expenses, and they spend $20,000 on whatever their mission is.
Well, let's talk about a free market thing that's happening without any socialism, which is also helping our consumers this morning, and that is the price of oil, where we just briefly dipped to the $68 a barrel level, all the way. I mean, almost half of what it was just a couple of months ago, a month and a half ago, whatever it was, when we were at 120. And the national average for 1 gallon of gas now at $3.90. That's 35 out of the last 36 days. It's gone down. You don't like these speculators when they drive the price up, but they've been driving it down fast. And July 4th next weekend, I think we're going to see a handle much lower than $3.90 by then.
Not fast enough.
Yeah, but
they're
still,
not lowering fast enough. And the president is right in saying that they're not lowering it fast enough.
But it is lower. We can, at least we have good news on that. And this is not free. A lot of people say freeze the prices. What if we had frozen the price at 4? We'd be stealing money from our own people right now. So let it keep going down. Whether you think it's going down fast enough is a different argument, but definitely we're talking about. But still, look, we're at 60. We're probably going to get back down to 68 in a few minutes. This is a good development, and even though Iran attacked, once again, what did we all say when the agreement was made? Not if Iran will break it. It's just when they'll break it. And they attacked a commercial ship in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday afternoon, going into the evening. Oil shot up briefly, but then they thought better of it.
Let's get this straight. We straightened it out last night at 5 o'clock.
Oh, you did? Good.
The truth is that it's not they. Probably a single, we had KT McFarlane on last night. It's probably a single individual that had an extra drone. You can't eliminate, it wasn't a massive attack. It was one drone, one cargo ship. There's always going to be how do you say it in Brooklyn? Schmuck?
A schmuck, yeah.
There's always going to be a schmuck somewhere that has one drone left and wants to stir the pot.
Hamas does this all the time, by the way. One person fires a rocket sometimes. And
That's it. And you're never going to, you can never get 100%.
I agree. 100%.
But you know what happens?
Well, the markets agree with you, too. They sent it down.
They forced the price of oil up $2.
But it went right back down.
You know how much money that is, $2?
They messed up your prediction. They messed up your prediction.
No, but it's going.
But it's nothing to do with my prediction.
It's all going back.
Okay? But this is what it is. So I tell all people that dealing in the markets, don't panic over nonsense, guys. Stuff happens, and stuff is always going to happen.
Well, the markets are always worried about something, but again, if you go to the gas pump in most of the year, I'm down to 370 by me, and I told you, if you asked me about a mid-grade yesterday, Fernando, because I don't do mid-grade, I do the cheap grade.
I don't know, you're cheap.
But I texted you yesterday, and I think I said it was only 406 for mid-grade at my station, so not
You
bad.
shop around for gas. You drive a mile to save a gallon. I don't understand that.
I know those people that drive 2 miles, spend 20 cents in extra fuel, but they save 12 cents.
Yeah, well, that's Jake.
No, I have
principle.
Where I live, I actually have.
You're right. I do. Jake, I've got to confess, I do the same thing. Yeah. I swear to God, I know where the cheapest gas stations are, and if it's 3-4 miles away from me, I still go there.
No, I don't do
because
that.
Psychologically, 10 cents that you spend on let's say 20 gallons is $2.
Yeah. No. What I do is something similar to that, which is I know the cheapest gas station in my neighborhood, and I make sure that when I'm near that area anyway for another thing, that's when I fill up, no matter how much. So even if I have only a quarter of a tank left to fill up, I'll go there.
Well, you don't drive that much. You know what? I follow the lead from the cab drivers. The cab drivers know exactly where to go.
And when to go.
And they do their thing the right way. So, listen, cab drivers should be listening to WABC every morning so that they get the latest on gas prices, on oil prices, so that they get the latest on who's here in the studios. I guarantee you that they are so happy that Earth, Wind, and Fire are here this week. But you know what? We're turning over the studio to sit again.
State Senator George Borrello is with us as well in studio. And Senator, we had you on the phone a couple of days ago to talk about the Republican Party in the state, where you're one of the spokesmen for. So, Fernando and I talked about something just off the air before the show started, which was some of these socialist candidates winning these congressional primaries, which I think is very frightening, especially this Daria Chevalier, who says she wants to wipe her hands with the American flag. She's viciously anti-Semitic, and I'll say that. Sid would say the same. I know he would say the same. Could somebody like Adriano Espaillat, who lost this primary, just as a political expert like yourself, Senator Borrello, should he run as an independent in the general election?
Do an Andrew Cuomo?
Yeah, do an Andrew Cuomo. Should he do it?
As a Republican, I'd love to see him do that because that'll split the vote and hopefully put it in the hands of the Republicans.
Right.
So
okay, give them a chance.
For Republican strategy. But look, it was not just congressional candidates. We had candidates in the Senate and the Assembly. Look, I know everybody focuses on D.C. and Congress, and certainly it's very important. But your everyday life is far more impacted by what happens in Albany than what happens in Washington. And the people that won these primaries in a very low turnout, by the way,
very low.
10% of the registered Democrats in some cases.
Incredible.
So, and by the way, this is from the party of voter suppression, and but yet they're making decisions on 1 in 10 of their of their voters, making a choice.
A Tuesday afternoon in the middle of the summer is a form of voter suppression.
100%.
Deliberate by Democrats.
And by the way, that was when Democrats took control. That was one of the things they changed. They moved the primaries from September to June, and then also having to collect signatures on petitions in February and March. But where I live, it's pretty darn cold.
September 11th, the day of the attack, was a primary day here in New York. People forget that. They had to redo it. But yes, it used to be in September, and it was a little bit more in people's minds and consciences. People were at school, kids were at school. Yes. I mean, the regular day-to-day stuff. Where you represent, let's get a little bit more local because all politics is local. Yes. You represent. We made our jokes about Chautauqua and my missing clothing and Jamestown. What are it's
beautiful country.
It's beautiful country. Yes. You have a lot of celebrities who own property around there and things like that. And that's great maybe for some things. But what are the major economic issues there that might resonate for everyone else around the country? I mean, this is our chance to kind of tap into a non-city type of politics and economics.
Most of New York State is rural. The number one industry in New York State, believe it or not, is agriculture. People think it's finance, but it's actually agriculture.
Apples and
grapes. So our concerns are like everyone else: the loss of population, the fact that our children are leaving. I speak a lot at schools and I speak to government classes.
That Buffalo area.
Yeah, that's right. So how
many people were in Buffalo 40 years ago, and how many are now?
Well, there's a lot less.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: the population loss, state in general, but it's been particularly hard in upstate New York. And people say, well, there's no jobs there. That's really not true. We have jobs. We don't have people that have the skills to fill the jobs that are open. We need more people that are in the trades. People that are welders and plumbers and carpenters. There's a severe shortage of these, and we're trying to push back. In the sense of trying to get kids into the STEM and STEAM. Look, I come from a family of plumbers. My father, my grandfather. I didn't want to go into the plumbing business. My grandfather, my father, they wanted me to go to college. But we've been telling kids that for 40 years. And look what we have now. We have a shortage of people in the skilled trades. And, Mike Rowe talks about this all the time, and we don't have, so we have jobs, but what we're telling people is don't go to work. Don't go to work. It's okay. You can live off the taxpayers. The biggest expense, I spent 10 years in county government. I was also county executive of Chautauqua County before I was a senator. The biggest expense by far for county government, which is property taxpayers, is welfare. It's Medicare, it's Medicaid. It's the fact that we have the safety net in New York State. People don't understand what that means. So the federal government limits you to 5 years of being on welfare. After 5 years, the federal government will no longer fund it. Then we go into states like New York that have what they call the safety net, which means forever you can live on welfare. We have multi-generational families that have been on welfare. Imagine somebody who you're trying to tell a kid to go to work who's never seen his parents or grandparents work. That's the problem that we have, and that's a problem, particularly here.
I want to hit on a couple things, both good news and bad news. The thing about the children leaving. Now, this is something that is very much one of the undercurrents of the whole migrant crisis thing. People are asking me all the time, what are so many Somalis going to Minnesota and Maine for? Well, I used to work in Maine. Fernando's going to make fun of me. Bangor, Maine. God. I lived and worked there. That is an aging population. The children are leaving. And you better believe that there are businesses and even government people as well who are, well, they might be illegal. They may not, but at least it's warm bodies coming into our population. Is there something like that going on? But before you answer that question, Buffalo, to answer John's question, the population is less than half of what it was in 1950. So it's
half,
less than half.
That's a big number.
And we also lost, that used to be a steel city as well, like Pittsburgh. A lot of steel car industry, and those all left.
But Buffalo is still having a lot of a business resurgence because the electric power there is relatively cheaper because of Niagara Falls.
Yes.
So first the Bitcoin miners plowed into Buffalo, bought vacant buildings, and put Bitcoin mining servers into a lot of buildings. Now, because of AI, Buffalo is seeing a tremendous... I have some classmates of mine in high school who are buying every building they can buy in Buffalo. Same thing in Cleveland. So there is hope, right? There's hope there.
Well, there was until they passed an AI moratorium here. At the end of session.
Okay.
Here's another thing. So AI is the new boogeyman. Okay, data centers. They don't want data centers. Now, who's they? They are, quite frankly, the socialists, the people on the left that are in charge. We passed this moratorium because we don't have enough power. Well, yeah, we don't have enough power because we have horrible energy policy here in New York State. We don't have enough power because we've shut down reliable baseload power. So who's the new boogeyman? Data centers.
Yeah,
so all those speculators, we've basically outlawed their ability to employ people to create jobs. There's a talk of a data center in my district that could create 125 high-paying jobs in a very poor rural area. It's going to provide needed funding to complete a major water project, and it's going to be transformational. But right now, if the governor signs his moratorium, it's going to, that's it. It's going to be done.
And State Senator Borrello, who was paying the money in these anti-data center campaigns?
China.
It's China.
That's right. That's the part people don't get. Look at over the years, we've had a lot of useful idiots here in the United States, and the new useful idiot is the one who's standing up and rallying against these things. And by the way, I'm not saying it's pro. I'm not trying to be a pro data center, but I am pro growth. Also, we don't have the ability. New York State forces down the throats of our rural communities all of these boondoggle green energy projects, wind and solar, and battery storage. We have the Office of Renewable Energy Siting, ORES, which can come into a community and just roll over local opposition, local zoning laws. They can cancel, roll over DEC regulations, wetland regulations, because that's the crisis that we're trying to address here. Which is, again, it's just an investment scam, is what it really is. But yet, with data centers, which are a much smaller footprint, which are going to create much more economic impact, we're going to shut those down. That's the hypocrisy out of Albany.
Fernando, this is something that you're the people that you're always so much in connection with, the bodega owners, the cab drivers, and things like that. This is a world that they may not be able to really truly understand, as far as like these data centers and the fact that if we don't get the power, we're not going to have the gas station or the food coming from, agriculture is the number one. Those bodegas need to get those fruits and vegetables from somewhere.
They do. And listen, we're always shopping around for where we can buy stuff for less, right? Jamestown, how far is Jamestown, Senator, from New York City?
From New York City? Well, it's I'll be finding out in a few minutes because I'm going to be leaving. I don't know where.
Oh, you've been in the city?
Yeah, I've been in the city here,
Okay.
but I actually drove this trip, but it's a good 6.5, 7 hours. It's a long way from New York City. And again, New York's a huge state.
But when you listen to WABC on the radio, the drive is much shorter.
It is, and I've got the app. I have the app on
right.
my phone, so I can listen to it.
So probably by the end of Brian Kilmeade's show, you'll be back home, something like that. But no, that's an important factor. Look,
Judge Weinberg has entered the studio.
Judge, all rise,
All rise
for the judge.
I have his seat.
I have my favorite group, my favorite state senator.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Senator Borrello, how are you?
Yeah, you're on, Judge. Judge, we were just talking about this rent freeze decision.
It's totally illegal.
It's totally illegal. But the thing is that
No, I mean, all joking around. I mean, the only person on the board. Judge, tell us about the person on the board.
Person on the board is the way the board is constituted. You have representatives from landlords, from tenants, and so-called independents. And what happened was a number of Adams people resigned. Mamdani packed the board with his
Loyalists.
people.
They were forced to resign, I heard.
That I don't
pressured.
know.
That's nicer word.
That may or
Under
may
pressure.
not be, but let's be clear. They did resign. Then Mamdani did pack the board. So what happened was you had this one lawyer. Her name is Christina Smith. She's the landlord representative, and she said that this was an unfair practice. They never looked at the conditions that the landlords were facing, that this was a hardship to them. They never did what they had to do lawfully, that this whole process, in fact, the hearing, the vote last night, was all a fix. It was all nonsense. It was all a charade. It was a predetermined result, and she did not want to be part of this charade or this.
And she resigned.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Now,
Judge-
let me ask you, but before you came, what I said was, if the city wants to reduce rents or reduce increases, then you should reduce real estate taxes.
Of course.
But they're doing the opposite.
No,
they're increasing real estate taxes.
But John,
And
increasing-
water costs.
You're on, but listen very carefully because you're onto something. Because the housing czar from Mamdani has made it perfectly clear she's anti-landlord, anti-capitalist. She wants to seize the private property. So what they've done is they created this sham commission about so-called bad landlords. So what they're going to do is they're going to use this to give them all kinds of fines, drive them out of business. They can't make their expenses. They will abandon the properties, and the city will take it over. Now, let me ask you a question. Bad landlord? What's a worse landlord than the housing authority?
Senator Borrello said that exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, I happen to be a chassid when it comes a Hasidic capitalist, and I don't like having a board. I don't even like the board in the first place, even if it's stacked with better people. I don't like the idea. Let the free market decide. All right, we're going to take a break right now. This is the last day of the Katz and Company takeover of Sid and Friends in the Morning. We're going to make the most of it. We have a lot of really great guests coming up, and we are going to continue to show you why it is not compassionate to have the government so-called freeze rents.